regular meeting on Monday, September 11th. Welcome, everybody. How the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication in the Public News Tribune and Star Ledger, and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. Roll call.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Ms. Saldun?
Here.
Ms. Coleman?
Here.
Ms. Gowan?
Here.
Ms. McFadden Nicola? Ms. Bruce?
Here.
Mr. Roslevich?
Here.
Ms. Vardaman?
Here.
Ms. Morgan?
Here.
Ms. Crosby?
Here.
Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Okay, we're going to go to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have the pleasure tonight of swearing in our new student representatives. And Dalton, Roy Crosby, welcome. Ms. Rosa will swear you in.
Okay, if you would stand. Oh, I'm sorry, speak into the microphone.
Me too.
Me too. Okay, repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm
I do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and the governments established in the United States
and this state under authority of the people.
and this state under authority of the people.
And I do affirm
And I do affirm
that I possess the qualifications prescribed
that I possess the qualifications prescribed
by board policy for the office of member of a board of education,
by board policy for the office of member of the Board of Education,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability.
perform all of the duties of that office according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much for taking these roles on. We do really appreciate it. And I'll say, in case we forget, if at any point you have feedback from the high school, things you want, you are welcome to contribute. If it's old business, new business, or when things come up for discussion, we're really happy to hear from you. Besides just to report about what's going on in the community, we also want to know what you're thinking and what maybe your friends are thinking or people that you know. So, welcome and thank you. We appreciate your point of view and perspective. We're moving on the agenda. There were no communications to the full board. We are going to approve the minutes of the hybrid, regular, public, and executive session meeting from August 28th. So I'll just do that right now. I move that we approve the minutes from August 28th.
Second.
Second is Allison.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Saldun? Yes. Ms. Coleman? Yes. Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola? Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Ms. Vardaman?
Yes.
Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Okay, now we move on. I don't know if you have reports for us.
Oh, yes.
We do.
Enthusiasm, I love it. Okay, go ahead, you're on.
So we're going to start with a report from Irving. Irving students were super excited to start their first day of school and were able to capture their first day memories at a photo booth with their parents.
Students were then welcomed into the building by the excited teachers, where parents dropped off their kids and briefed them teachers. Irving's Week of Respect will begin October 2nd, kicking the week off with a concert for Mr. A, and their back-to-school night will be on September 21st from 6 to 8 p.m.
Over at Bartle students enjoyed popcorn with the principal and the assistant principal on August 30th, where they got to meet the principals and get excited for the year. Students also got to take pictures of the photo booth out outside the school, hosted by Bartle's EPIC and the Highland Educational Association, so families could capture first-day memories. Bartle also wants to remind everybody that their back-to-school day is on September 26th, and they look forward to seeing all of their Bartle parents and guardians.
Onward and upwards to the middle school. Middle school students received their new Chromebooks, and every grade level attended an assembly detailing the expectations for the school. The middle school is looking forward to their back-to-school night on September 27th. Also, there will be cross-country interest meeting after school on Tuesday in Miss Stern's room 208A. The first practice is set for Wednesday, 9:13. There was also a meeting to sign up for boys and girls soccer today after school. If you missed the meeting and are interested in participating, please reach out to Mr. Gergen to get more information. Lastly, they invite students to join them for their first drama club meeting of the year, open to all 6th through 12th graders on Wednesday, September 13th, from 3 to 4 p.m. in the high school auditorium.
Over at the high school, on Friday, the high school football team had their first home game, where they had a heartbreaking fourth quarter loss against Denellen with a final score of 50-44. But the energy was high, and all students look forward to the next home game on September 22nd. The next class of 2024 will be hosting a car wash fundraiser on Sunday, September 24th, from 11 to 3 p.m. in front of the high school. All proceeds go towards the senior class trips and prom. The student body is now settled with their new Chromebooks, and students who are unable to pick up their Chromebooks earlier will receive them on September 8th. And if any students still don't have their Chromebooks, they are encouraged to visit the main office to retrieve them. And the Heidelberg High School had their activity fair today and their grade level assemblies, where clubs got to recruit new members and students got to learn all about what they can get involved with at the high school. The assemblies were also a great success, preparing students for what to expect out of this year.
Continuing with the high school news, students should be aware of the following important deadline dates at the counseling office. All elective changes must be made by Wednesday, September 20th, 2023, and course level changes must be made by Friday, October 13th. Cup of Glow is back from the high school Glow program. It will be beginning September 18th with a new staff membership program. Glow students will be delivering handmade orders to customers and are creating caffeine cards in the staff rooms. Students will be served out of the deck store and also have a new member loyalty program. Check out the Cup of Glow Instagram and website this week for details. Finally, our back to school night will be September 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. so that parents and guardians can meet the wonderful staff of the high school.
Thank you. That's a lot for the second day of school. Any questions or comments for our representatives?
No, just thank you for a very detailed report. Starting strong and confident. Thank you both.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Superintendent's report tonight is the feasibility study. Dr. McCoy is going to be talking about the options for how we house our preschool expansion that we're looking to do. And just following the format, the format of the evening is what we typically do. Board committee reports we'll do, then there'll be time for public comment, and then we'll be voting on board action items. It is voting, it's our only meeting in September, so it's both workshop and voting, so that's how we're going to proceed. So motion.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to say Cup of Glow is awesome. So anybody out there for staff that needs to go and you've experienced it, it's great. If you need a cup of coffee during the day, they're the people to call. They bring it delivered to your office, and it is delicious. Best baristas I know. So I strongly encourage the staff to take advantage of the Cup of Glow. So good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share the results of the feasibility study. Unfortunately, our architects could not be present tonight to present their findings. So I went through the entire set of information, results that they gave, and put together in a presentation for you all. So as you know, a couple months ago, we contracted out our architects to do a feasibility study. And what we did was we gave them, they came in and toured all 4 of our buildings, plus they drove around all of Highland Park to find available land or buildings that we might be able to acquire for potential preschool locations. study, like I said, was to identify space for preschool classrooms as part of Governor Phil Murphy's preschool expansion strategic plan. So at the link when the presentation is posted, you can certainly read Governor Murphy's strategic plan, but essentially it's all districts in the state of New Jersey will be offering full preschool by the end of the decade. And that is part of their state funding as well. As an ECPA school, meaning we offer because of our free reduced lunch population, we offer part-time preschool as part of the grant. We have early access to the money and are required to start earlier than some other schools around the state. So what does that mean for us? We needed to look for additional classrooms because we are not able to provide that for 90% of our universe to house them in 5 years. As you recall from a previous presentation I gave, 90% of our universe is 2 years of first grade. So they do an ASSA report from last year. That was about 125 students on that report, times 2 because it's 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So it is 2 times that number, 250, and then 90% of that is where we need to be approximately in 5 years. So not only the additional classrooms, but preschool comes with very specific playground information and playground space that is required, as well as space for related services for preschool. Like I said, they explored all 4 buildings in the district, as well as a couple of properties in the Highland Park area. So the locations of interest, there were 3 viable locations and 1 non-viable location that they explored. Of the 4 buildings, the 2 that would be available for additions that would house the space, there is a possibility at Irving, a possibility at Bartle, and then a possibility of a property not owned by the district at 1102 Raritan Ave. And then a location that we did have them explore was on Woodbridge Avenue between 10th and 11th Avenues. So first I'll talk about the Bartle addition. So the addition that the architects proposed for Bartle is located on the open field on the west side of the site. So it is on 5th Ave, right by the police station, right across from the Borough Hall. It's a 2-story addition, totaling 26,440 square feet. The space would include 14 preschool classrooms, 2 small group instruction rooms, and a small administrative suite. So preschool has to be overseen by an administrator as well. Again, there are very specific guidelines for the size of a preschool classroom in addition to the requirements for a bathroom, either within the classroom or a direct line sight or eyesight of the classroom. For the Bartle addition, the preschool students would be using the existing gymnasium and school space for specialty functions, meaning if they had to go to an art class or something like that, they would be going and using the Bartle space for a gym or any other specialty functions, like a nurse's office and things like that. In addition, 49 parking spaces would need to be added as well, which would extend the current parking lot. So just to give you reference, the space here are the pictures that they took. Again, it's on that side that's facing the Borough Hall, which is on this opposite side here. So all of this land that is adjacent to that is next to the building would be where the addition is. And then this is the first floor of the addition. So you can see that it would be built onto the current structure. So as you can see, there is a courtyard that would be in between. That courtyard would be used for the additional play space because the current Bartle play space does not meet preschool code because it's for children that are around 8 years old and older, in 2nd grade and up. So they would need an additional space. So the courtyard space that would be built in between the old part of the building and the new addition would be for the playground space. And so you can see the classrooms, and SGI just represents small group instruction. So you can see there would be a corridor attached. So they would use the existing elevator and all of that to move about the building. And then the addition would be the 2nd floor. So here is the 2nd floor, which are all the classrooms. And then the parking lot would be the additional spaces, so you can see the existing parking lot here. If you're coming down into the back part of Bartle, so here's the back part of Bartle, you're coming down, here's where administration and specialty parking is, here's staff parking lot. Here is our new, beautiful, by the way, play structure. And then across is that affectionately known as the play pit. But we're trying to grow grass. We're very excited to try to grow grass in that area. But this would be utilized as additional parking spaces as well. So that's something to consider when we're building a building or an addition, is obviously parking for those additional staff members as well. For the Irving addition, the architects propose a single-story portion, adding a single story to the existing single-story of the building. So not the tower, but the other space where the main office is, the nurse's office, and the sort of existing preschool and kindergarten classes. That single-story portion would have the addition. It would be one additional story, totaling 20,730 square feet. It would have to require an elevator for access, because it can't access the elevator that's on the other side. That elevator on the other side goes only to the tower. So it would need an additional elevator. And that would give us 10 preschool classrooms, 2 small group instruction rooms, administrative offices, and storage. And if you know anything about early childhood education, storage is critical. Preschool students would use the existing gymnasium and school space for a specialty function, and they can use the play structure outside, as that is to preschool code. And unfortunately, there's no additional parking that can be accommodated. So there's nowhere else to add additional parking if we add additional classrooms over there. And so you can see the pictures that the architects took. So again, it's on that single-story portion of the of Irving and not on the tower, but it would be separate from the tower. And here is the preschool addition of the ground floor, which would be no change except for the addition of the stairs and elevator. And then here is the addition that would be over, that would be attached to where the tower would be, but over the first part of it. So you can see essentially they took the layout of the first floor and just replicated it for the second floor. So again, you have your classrooms with the bathrooms, you have your additional small group instruction room, and some storage. At 1102 Raritan Ave, right now it's currently a small mixed-use building with small parking lot and wooded area. This property is not owned by the district. The architects are proposing a 3-story building totaling 27,760 square feet. This space would include 10 preschool classrooms, 2 small group instruction rooms, administrative offices, and any specialty spaces required for preschool. The lot accommodates 14 parking spaces, so it does come with parking. And the proposal includes an outdoor play structure that is in alignment with the code for preschool students. So if you are at 1102 Raritan Ave right now, there's currently a mixed-use building there, but you can see that there is, so in this first picture, this entrance in is the parking lot, and when you look at the sketches brought up by the architect, it actually goes out of 11 and out the other side, so it would basically loop around. Most of it is wooden lot area, but the building is the only structure that's currently on it. So here is the proposal for the building at 1102 Raritan. So like I said, you come in on 11, so the parking spots then can go in or out through Maryland, which is really nice. And then you go into the building, you have your preschool classrooms on the first floor, some small group instruction and administrative suite. And then the second floor, again, additional preschool classrooms, some small group instruction. And then the proposal includes a third floor, which gives more opportunity for either professional development space, some office space, but also gross motor skills and some additional child study team spaces. Legally, preschool students cannot be higher than a second floor. So that's why there's no additional spaces, like you can't build another on top of Irving. Like you can't have that third floor at Irving, and at a third floor in a new building, can't house preschool either. So preschool can't be in a modular classroom, and they can't be on anything higher than a second story. So hence why there's no classrooms up there. The Woodbridge Ave site is located between South 10th and South 11th Avenue and backs up to McCullum Place. This property is also not owned by the district. The issue with this space, which is why it's not feasible, is the architects say that the property is not large enough to support a preschool building, so there are no concepts developed for this land. And for those who don't know, right by Irving, there's that T-shaped property. It's kind of behind the liquor store and the first aid squad. It's a T-shaped lot, so unfortunately it just doesn't have enough space to house enough classes, the outdoor play space, the specialty places like a nurse's office and things like that, the child study spaces, intervention and referral services, the preschool coach. There's a lot of specialty items that come with the preschool and parking, so this space was not feasible, so hence why they did not mark up any plans for that. So in terms of cost for the district, the architects did pull out some general information, some rough numbers to consider. The Bartle addition, they said, would cost between $19 and $20 million. The Irving addition would cost $20 to $21 million, plus the cost to house relocated students for approximately a year, if not more. The issue with building at Irving is that you cannot build a second story while students or staff are in the building on the first story. Bartle is different because it's a separate entity. The students aren't being disrupted by the construction other than making the noise. But at Irving, because they're building on the second floor, we have to relocate those students for probably a year. But I guess depending on timeline and how things go, it could be even longer. At the 1102 property, we are considering a P3 project. So right now, unfortunately, I do not have any initial costs to the district. I should have that within 2 weeks. So at the next meeting in October, I will present that information. Right now, these are just some preliminary information that we got from the architect. But a P3 project, which I'll explain in a minute, would be no initial cost to the district until the building is occupied. So we don't have to put anybody out until the building is occupied. And then Woodbridge Ave, obviously, since we're not exploring it, there's no cost associated with that project. So obviously, Woodbridge Ave, not recommended because the lot is too small. The architects do not recommend Irving for an addition. So these are not my recommendations. These are the results from the architectural study. They said that Irving has a different set of challenges. It's a more costly construction, because you have to build on that existing structure, which wasn't originally built for future growth. And again, we can't house the students or staff on the first floor during construction, so that means we have to relocate 9 classrooms, a media center, and a main office, and the nurse, and child study, and the faculty room. So the 2 sites that the architects recommend for your consideration would be the Bartle addition. The Bartle addition, if that is the one that the board would like to move forward with in October at the voting meeting, we'll make a decision. That would require, obviously, a referendum. We don't have $20 million laying around for that, so that would require that we go out for a referendum and get a vote to build for construction for that. The other recommendation from DMR is 1102 Raritan Ave in that building. So again, that would have us engage in a public-private partnership, which is the P3, which was put into law by Governor Murphy in 2018. Essentially what it says is that we can enter into an agreement with a private organization that would assume the financial and administrative responsibility for the development, construction, and any other related costs associated with it of a government-related project. So a private entity could bill for a public organization. Essentially, the P3 project is financed by the private organization. In addition, the law requires local public input and financial controls, as well as land use and financial approvals. So it does allow us local control over it to make sure that it obviously meets the requirements for preschool and allows us input in terms of how it's going to be built and how it's going to be used. It also, P3 does allow, it can't be any greater than a 30-year period for a lease to own. So over a period of up to or less than 30 years after paying it off, it will be district property. So if we engage in a P3 partnership for 1102 Raritan Ave, depending on how long we engage in that partnership in terms of the sort of lease to own, that then becomes, at the end of it, becomes school property. Workers for the project are subject to New Jersey prevailing wage, the New Jersey Prevailing Wage Act, and are registered by the state of New Jersey to perform work on the project. And we review and approve, there's a review and approval process for all P3 agreements. So it does go through the Commissioner of Education that will sign off on it. I've been working with, I've been in touch with Roselle, the Superintendent and Director of Ed Services at Roselle, who are engaging in a P3 partnership right now for a preschool building, because everybody in New Jersey is now scrambling to figure out how they're going to build preschools. So they are currently involved in a P3 agreement. So right now I'm talking with them to get some more information in terms of how they're building the cost into their operating budget. What does that mean? Did they build it in the operating budget? Did they go get a lease to pay it over time like we do with the Chromebooks? We don't put out, $750,000 every couple of years for the Chromebooks. We get a loan and we pay that loan off over 5 years for the Chromebooks. So essentially we could be looking at doing that as well. So again, at the next board meeting, I'll have way more information in terms of what the cost is and what that would look like for the district. So in terms of the first step, so today was just to give you the results of the architect's feasibility study. What I'd like to do is I'm going to open up the questions to the board, and I'll take some notes so that I can write everything down. In addition, if there's anything made during public comment, we will also record that. We won't be engaging, there aren't very many questions that I can answer besides this, because these aren't the results of my study, it's the results of the architects who were not able to join us tonight because they had personal obligations, so they're not here to answer questions. But I told them I would take that information and give it back to them, and then what will happen is at the next meeting, the first meeting in October, I'll share more information, any answers that we have, any comments, things like that, and then at the second board meeting in October, we'll need to vote on either the Bartle location or 1102 Raritan Ave. So again, I'll write down everything, but I probably won't be able to respond to anything because, like I said, these are the results of my study. So hopefully we should, be able to get some more information in a couple of weeks. Like I said, I'll have some information on the P3 so that you'll have enough information to make a decision come the end of October. So I'll open it up to the board for questions.
Could you share with us from the architects, like where the architects got like their starting point for like the number of classrooms, the number of office space, the amount of growth, the amount of space that they allocated in terms of what they were designing to?
Yeah, so what they did was they took our number, like I said, so it was 2 times our ASSA report. So the ASSA report from first grade, because kindergarten isn't a required grade level. So they can't use the kindergarten numbers because that's skewed, but first grade is. So what they did was they took last year's ASSA numbers, which I think was approximately 125 kids. You have to multiply that by 2, because that 250 then is essentially, we're adding 2 additional grade levels, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So we're adding 2 additional grade levels for preschool. Then 90% of that number is how many students we have to house. So then what they do is they look at the preschool code. For general education classes, there can be no more than 15 preschool students in a classroom. So then divide that number by 15 to get the approximate number of classrooms that you need. And then how they determined how many they could fit in each space was determined, I believe it's about 900 or 950 square feet per classroom, and then a bathroom. So each classroom has to have a bathroom and has to have a minimum of 900 square feet, plus I think 100 or 150 square feet of storage, I believe. Again, the code, the storage square footage I'm not as confident on, but there is specific square footage, and then that's how they determine how many classroom spaces we would need.
And then at each of these, one of the things that really kind of threw me for Bartle is that 49 parking spaces, like right in an area that we would probably, it's Clayton, I get it, but it's an area that when we're looking at an option that has 0 parking and an option that we're going with 49 parking spaces, which is, I think, is probably more than what we already have. It kind of boggles my mind that we would accept a proposal that ropes us into 49 parking.
Well, we're not accepting the proposal. That's what they proposed, but they said you can go less than that. You don't have to do 49. They're saying that's the amount you could fit in total there, but if you wanted to go 42, 40, none, 10, it's up to you.
Yeah, I thought I heard somewhere that the number of spaces was required.
No. Parking spaces is not required. I would probably say that the staff would like parking spaces,
Oh, definitely.
but it's not required. That's not required for preschool.
Okay.
I think the children at Bartle might like more expanded play areas instead of the one.
Yes. We're trying. You see it. We're trying to grow grass. It looks pretty good. We're doing a good job over there. We're trying to grow some grass.
And at Bartle, that interior courtyard area was designed with the intent for outside play, correct? Like between the two buildings?
Yeah, so that's going to be the play structure for preschool only, because preschool has to have a different play structure than the older children. So the play structure at Irving is already the preschool code. The play structure at Bartle is not. So they would need an additional play structure, so that in between that courtyard would be their play structure.
It just seems, it seems like as a district we have a lot of interior courtyard spaces, which never really seem to be that attractive because they're always dark and shady, and during the winter they don't have the access. I'm just worried that we're building something that needs to be used for preschool students to play in, but in effect won't be inviting to play in the future for that one scenario as it's schematically designed.
Right.
I understand it's just the first draft.
Right. Other questions? Anything specific? And again, for the board members, certainly you have time, and all board members have plenty of time, to email me questions or email Marilyn questions between now and our next board meeting. But I figured I would throw it out there if there's anything that you were really thinking. Oh, go ahead.
Just a quick question along the lines of space at Bartle. Well, just in general, do you happen to know what the requirement is around SGI spaces that you may not be able to?
For small group instruction, no, I do not, but I can find that out.
To know how that factors in. And then I was just thinking about talking about parking, just kind of an impact study on whatever parking options we choose to go with. Let's say we do a Bartle, and what would the impact of parking that's around there.
I was wondering if the architects had an estimate for how long it would take to build a park extension, because I know when we were in Bartle that any kind of noise outside was a little bit like, what's going on out here? So if you're in a classroom with a window facing that, I kind of worry a little bit.
Yeah, they said approximately 2 years.
Okay.
And that's a big cost.
That's a big, or that is, that's a big, we all know construction in the size of that. And probably, okay, is construction less than the proposed time?
Well, I might be a little jaded because, I see things, 2 years is probably right in that ballpark.
Okay.
But if it was Amazon or Wawa or some other corporation with a lot of money behind it, a lot of their stuff goes up in a year.
Right, so
And
part
I
of,
think
right.
it's a difference between who's willing to pay for it and how it's.
Right, so part of what my understanding is through a P3 project is the P3 project can be done in a faster amount of time because it's a private organization that is building it. So although they do have to be prevailing wage, they have less, they have a little bit more leniency to build at a quicker rate. So if we engage in a P3 for that property, it would be built a lot faster. The other thing I did want to put on as a reminder that many, many years ago, probably going back at least 30 from what I know, we used to own 2 other schools, Center School and Lafayette. Over time, those were sold off. I believe the last one that was sold off a couple superintendents ago for $250,000 to Center School. It was Center School. So, we're in a position that, superintendents and boards many, many, many years before our time made some decisions that are now impacting us, because if we would have other properties, building on it wouldn't be a big deal, or outfitting those buildings and adjusting things wouldn't be a big deal, but we're kind of caught between a little bit of a rock and a hard place. I will say the building does own some more property right behind the football field, that's off Brookdale Court, that they drove by that one too, and you cannot put any kind of building, it's pretty much not really used for much other than maybe some parking spaces if at all for anything, or a small administrative building. But that land really isn't feasible for much either, so that's why they were exploring other pieces of property. So, we're in the position that we're in. So again, the option, really is, from the architect's perspective, is do you build that addition on your current structure, or are we looking to essentially get land and another building as part of district property, essentially?
I have a question, I'm sorry, do you all have questions? Yeah. Just in terms of if we did 10 classrooms at the P3, right, is that 10 classrooms?
Yeah.
In fact, you need 14 based on numbers you were throwing out, so then what was the need? We were 15. Yeah. So then, given that, what would be the option?
So I can ask about that. Okay. No, so I mean, we're pretty Catholic, we're not, but according to the state of New Jersey, it said that you have to get to 90% of your universe, but if you don't get to 90% of your universe and you show good faith effort that you tried, that's okay. So so let's say we don't engage in the P3 partnership and you opt for Bartle and we go for referendum and the community votes no, we don't have additional preschool, so that means we will continue, I guess, leasing modulars and having the same number of preschool options, and we just show the state, we made an effort, the community didn't vote in favor, we tried, we'll try again, right? So, there's no requirement in terms of we're not going to be penalized if we don't get there, as long as we show good faith effort that we are trying. I would hope that we would be in a position that we would be able to select one option or the other to be able to make it happen, because like I said, this is a really great opportunity. We're getting the funding, and we can close the opportunity gap and the achievement gap by offering full day preschool. And I think to tie it into a lot of what's happening in the community, I think it would draw in more families, because I know families are looking for relocating young families to areas where there is full day preschool starting at 3 years old. So it's a good opportunity.
So that actually goes to
Just
one.
speak in front of me.
I'm sorry. That actually goes to one of my questions, which is that we're talking about getting to 90%. Are we factoring in any growth when we're talking about that?
No.
Well, that seems like it might be short-sighted, as there are community development plans in process. And as you just said, you're talking about trying to draw additional people into the district. So, 90% of what we could currently house doesn't seem like it's long-term. Really feasible.
Marilyn, Denise and I met with the mayor recently, and are you going to talk about that in your president report? No, I'm not stealing your thunder. So more of that will be coming soon, but essentially we were told that there's not very much, there is some information coming out, but some of the studies coming out of Rutgers for these type of redevelopment projects show that the numbers won't impact us that significantly. But again, we won't know until things happen. But I will say that one of the things to consider is if we do the Bartle, our facilities in general do need support and help. It's been a very, very long time since we've had a referendum and done any major construction. We've been blessed the past couple of years with the federal grants from COVID and COVID relief to be able to do some projects around the buildings, but the high school is going to be turning 100 in 2025 and need some upgrades. We do actually have some spaces around the building that we could do, possibly, reconfigure for construction too. So what the architects have done is come into the buildings and met with us to go through and say what needs help and support that we could tie into this referendum as well. One of the things we were considering was to sort of do that walkthrough, make that list, because there might be spaces too that are underutilized that we could utilize to move things around and shuffle too. So I know we're talking about preschool, but we could find room other places for some things, which might be helpful. So the idea is we will do these rounds with some board members, myself, Denise, facilities, the admins, tech, etc., and try to get a list of what we think we need. And then when we were considering hiring a PR firm to do some PR work for us on the back end of the community and find out what does the community want. Right? We know that sometimes putting out surveys in the district doesn't always get us a good return in terms of people responding. So maybe a PR firm that could help us and say, here's all the things that we possibly need for the schools in terms of a referendum, including a preschool potentially. What do you value as a community? Do we want more art spaces? Do we want STEM spaces? Do we want more upgraded HVAC and roofing? Like, what are those things that we need or want or we value as a school community, and tie that into, do we want upgraded media centers? What do we want and what do we value? And then we can tie that into a referendum. If we do the P3, that doesn't mean that we also can't do a referendum, right? You can do a referendum and we can engage in this P3 partnership as well. So, but we are limited in, Mr. Rosa, please remind me how much we have available for referendum without tax implication for year one. You remember, like $29 million.
I didn't hear you.
So the referendum availability is $29 million without tax implication. Without tax implication. So what happens is that we could do sort of, for lack of a better term, like a level funded one. So since we haven't been out for referendum in a while, we have $29 million that we can essentially borrow from, that we have to pay back, but it wouldn't require an increase to the taxes for anybody in Highland Park. If you go beyond $29 million, there would be tax implication. So, like if you see, like Bridgewater River, for example, just did a referendum. The previous BA gave me their little packet, so we can look at it, and they will show you, here's what you get for option one with no tax implication. Here's what you can get for the referendum with tax implication, right? And the different parts, and now vote, right? So that could be an option too. So the referendum we can explore as well in terms of whether we do it with a preschool or not. That money is on the table as well. But it's only $29 million or more if you want tax implication. And I know as being a person who pays a lot of property tax in the state of New Jersey, that might be a little bit of a harder pill to swallow.
I just have one other question about P3, and I do understand that we're going to be getting a lot more detailed information. Is there a developer that we've currently been working with, to look at that space, or is that solely the architect?
No, so we've been in communication with the owner of that property who wants to engage in the P3 partnership with us. That person is a community member and is interested in doing so because this person would like to give back to the community, feels really connected, and would like to give back to the community by engaging in the partnership with us.
And we'll just be getting more details.
Yes. Well, because again, right now I don't know the cost, so I want to make sure that we have all of that information. So like I said, these are preliminary conversations. I know we've been anxiously awaiting the results of the feasibility study. So now that we have two viable options, again, I hear what you're saying. I've taken some notes. For board members, please continue to reach out to Marilyn or Allison in terms of more questions that you have about it, and we can get more information. Myself and Denise can get more information from the architect.
I also do want to say, I think it's absolutely amazing that we're expanding pre-K. It's wonderful. I missed out on it by a year.
Sorry.
But, you know, I'm so happy for the community. It's a wonderful thing that we're doing. So, I agree. Yes.
Can I ask a question before we, can I ask a quick question before we move on? I just didn't hear the answer to Marilyn's question about the number of classrooms. Is the idea that if the P2 project did not have space for enough classrooms, we would still be showing good faith in trying to get there?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So that would count as good faith?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. And same thing, if we did a referendum and that didn't pass, we're showing good faith as well.
That makes sense.
Yes, yeah, both of them, regardless of what we do. Right now, we're showing good faith because we got modulars and starters in.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to hear about the classrooms
Yeah.
scenario, so, but we have that in writing somewhere.
Yes.
It seems like we're planning not to do it, so, you know, but that's what DOE says, that's what the DOE says. Absolutely.
Reality, based on what Ann, following what Ann said, more students we can ultimately get into
Yes.
preschool classrooms, better is going to be.
That's what we'd like to do.
Better is going to be.
Well, right, that was the concern with the P3, right?
Right,
Yeah, that answers my question. Yeah, right, Marilyn's question. Is one of these options sort of better from the perspective of us having to expand in the future? Is one of these like lend itself better to a platform for later expansion, or is it not? They're both really.
I
mean,
mean,
just
Bartle's is not, because Bartle, you're, like, that's it, where you're maxing out, that's what you're, right? The other one is you will eventually own, depending on how long you do the term, you'll own the land. So you're paying for new land, new land acquisition and a building. So that does have some potential. Again, the only people that are not allowed on that third floor are preschool students. Does that mean that you couldn't put, some administrative offices up there and then free up space in the school for administrative, those administrative offices becoming, more classrooms for students or something like that, or additional space so you have a little bit more flexibility. And like I said, the district used to own 2 other properties, but they don't have access to them anymore. So, that might be an option if you're thinking about future growth, is now you own a building and land that you didn't before. So, in terms of potential, that would be it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have one other question.
Without financial implication of the gate.
I have one other question, and this could have been dealt with before, I'm sorry, brand new. Is there any reason that we didn't consider making Irving a preschool and moving first grade, for example, to Bartle and doing an expansion there?
Right, so we have 6 first grade classrooms, because remember, preschool is double that amount, essentially, right? Like 12, like 50, so essentially, first grade has 6 classrooms plus 1 or 2, I think, special ed areas. So that still doesn't give us enough space if we move first grade.
Oh, no,
Like if we move first grade to Bartle, right, is what you're saying? So that would be a 1 to 5 building.
K through 5, and are there any other additions?
Well, you have to look at those spaces in Irving for bathrooms and the tower, the third floor of the tower couldn't be used at all because they can't be up there. So you are very limited. Not every classroom has a bathroom. So the ones in the tower, those rooms, I believe, don't have bathrooms. So they either couldn't be used or we have to outfit them with bathrooms. And they'd have to be the right amount of space. The ones downstairs on the main floor, there are some that are preschool ready, but not everyone is preschool ready. So that would require a lot of work. We didn't explore that, but because we didn't consider moving kindergarten and first grade. I know they talked about, the board had talked about moving 1 grade level, but that wouldn't give us enough space. Yes. No, it's good. It's all good. All good.
So do I think I also would choose right, but typically.
Yeah, so that was just.
And there was conversation that the board did think that the community really liked the Irving early childhood, sort of like that, that comes with it. So not that is to make or break anything, but I know that was something that the finance and facilities has talked about. So for reference, finance and facilities has been talking about this for a number of meetings. as we've been exploring preschool since the beginning with modulars and everything like that. So these are constant conversations that we're having and, continue having to October.
Can I ask a question about just the existing preschool program in general?
Sure.
Are we still able to offer half days?
No, we cannot offer half days anymore, it's full day.
Different from the community, there's a lot of people that are now not going to do it because they want half day.
Right.
So we might not lose them as we thought.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not allowed to offer that. Our funding is predicated on a full day.
Could I follow up with another question? So, I'm inferring that the center school is not available to, for
Correct.
sale
Not for sale, I tried.
or rental? Okay.
Well, rental, but short-term only.
I see.
Center school is only available for short-term rental. The owner of that property has future plans for that space that doesn't include swimming. So that's how I'll put it nicely.
I figured, yeah, no, thank you.
What about rental though for the urban displacement? Wasn't that?
We could. I'm not sure how much he would charge us, but also there is some money that would go into it because there was a fire on the second floor that he's still working construction on, and the owner of the property does not want to give up access to the gymnasium, to the go-karts that might be inside, and a couple other things that it might come with. I don't know if you've been inside it, but it's a fun playground. So that it would require some stipulations if we wanted to bring our,
Just wondering like how many
Yeah.
classrooms would
Yeah.
what's
Yeah, no, he did offer a short-term rental, but I'm not sure of the cost for that because, like I said, the building isn't really, short-term use of buildings doesn't have to meet the same code as normal buildings for students. So if you did house any students over there, the code is a little bit lax in terms of like safety, security, bathrooms, cafeteria, et cetera, et cetera. It is a little bit more lax, but there still are certain codes that have to be done in that building to get it up to par. So that would be something to consider.
But I think along those lines, what has administration or thinking about possibilities if we're considering this option seriously of what we do in terms of relocation, not only students but support staff.
So that would be the only thing I would consider would just be trying to engage in a conversation with the owner of the center school because I'm not sure where else we could put everybody because I have no space for more modulars. Like the other option is modulars, where we put everybody in modulars, but unfortunately it's not like we have large parking lots where we could, put those to put everybody on the first floor to relocate them. That's what a lot of other schools will do. They'll put modulars up to relocate the students. While construction is happening, but unfortunately I'm not sure unless we do some at the high school and take that parking lot, maybe a couple out here in this parking lot. We have to take over all the parking lots and borrow essentially to put modulars to relocate everybody.
Okay, well, that's helpful to know.
Yeah.
just for context.
Yeah,
We
yes, absolutely.
are really talking about modulars and different.
Modulars or a whole different building, like they cannot physically be in that building while construction is happening.
Right, and that whole other building option would, at this point, you're thinking would only possibly center school in terms of
Yes.
facilities.
Yes. Well,
Would you mind giving like a quick rundown on how does the $29 million referendum not have tax implications? I don't know if I should know this after so many years of working, but there was a referendum.
So you have debt that's falling off in 2030, so basically we would be bonding for that debt capacity of 29 million and repay, once your bonds fall off, once we repay your current debt, it would just marry the two.
I see, that makes sense, thank you.
So that means that our budget already is right there, we're already paying X amount of dollars to pay that loan.
Correct.
So we would just take the same number of dollars and pay a different loan.
yes.
I see, got it, thank you, that's great.
The simplest way to say it.
Right?
Yeah. That's great.
Well, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
A lot of information, lot to think about. And the public will have an opportunity to ask their questions as soon as we get there, and then again, the first meeting in October. So we do have, sometime at some point, we have to get to the point of making a decision, because this is obviously a long-term process.
Well,
Let's start with the decision.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is, we will have information about this D3 project before.
Or that's the story. We can't make a decision right without those numbers very much.
Would you be able to also maybe do the walkthroughs to kind of meeting, or when we have that? the next
For
time?
referendum?
Yes.
Okay.
Like,
I
we
think-
get some ideas on capacity and things that we may, other things that we may need to look at.
We also have had, we'll come back to later, a conversation about having a formal capacity study done by these architects or others.
Yeah, that won't be,
That's not
gonna be,
Right,
that won't be for the one, because we have to get that done, so that won't be for October, that will be in the future, but we, Denise and I can certainly do our walkthroughs to give everybody a list of what we're looking at.
okay, we're gonna move on to board committee reports, recommendations, and we'll start with curriculum and instruction.
Okay, curriculum instruction met on September 5th. The first thing we discussed was a new course proposal at the high school for an elective course called Skills for Success. This course aims to equip high school students with essential skills to enhance their academic performance and overall organization as they work towards post-secondary opportunities. Amy Coppola provided us an overview of the course content, which was modeled after a similar course from Metuchen High School. And it includes topics like time management, note-taking, study strategies. This course might be suggested to some students, but it would be open to all students. And it would kind of be tailored to each student's particular needs or experience. So if a student was going through college application process, the course would be tailored to that particular student's making their way through the college application process, or if a student was having or needed support in how to study a content area, then that student would receive support there. We agreed the course could be valuable addition, but we would like to run it through equity and excellence as well, because we do occasionally, when we have these courses in mind, we want to make sure that we're not, I don't know how to say this, putting this, like, only certain students in this course, like making sure that we're not only putting IEP students in this course, or that, students in honors are also encouraged to take this course, because this course, of course, would also support students in honors. So we want to just look at it more closely through the equity and excellence lens. The other thing we discussed was middle school and high school teacher coaching cycle. So Ms. Rodriguez provided an update on instructional support for middle and high school teachers. Jana Lee has been, she met with the teachers last spring and also took some observations and gave some feedback. And she's going to be running 2 cohorts this year, one in the fall and one in the spring, and working on collecting assessment data and using data to inform instruction. So the fall cohort will be recruiting volunteer teachers, and then the spring cohort will be a mix of volunteers and perhaps people that may need more support in those areas. We looked at Math 7 grade data. Ms. Saka prepared in order to distinguish between Math 7 and pre-algebra performance data. We discussed concerns regarding the percentage of students who passed the Math 7 benchmark. That was 23%. That does not mean that 23% of students passed the course. That's just the specific assessment. It was unanimously agreed that additional math intervention and support were necessary to help students improve their math skills. Math 7, unfortunately, was not among the courses revised over the summer, so the committee asked for further information on how changes were going to be made to address student needs. Currently, there is 1 math interventionist in the middle school. We also discussed concerns on how students were moved forward to the next grade without remediation. We reported parent feedback in the previous board meeting regarding difficulties with scheduling students to attend summer intervention programs, and suggested that perhaps summer intervention programs could be pushed to later in the summer so they don't conflict with camps. It was also discussed the conversation regarding the summer intervention program should be happening from the mid-year benchmark assessment so families can be aware of the need for support as quickly as possible. On another note, the new standards, the NJSA, or this New Jersey State Board of Education had new standards that they received public feedback on, and at the last BOE meeting, state BOE meeting, the state board discussed that they asked for legal advice about the process to reopen Chapter 7, which I linked in the committee report due to public reaction.
It appears that they are likely in this process because the proposed standards are no longer on the website. This is really unfortunate because a lot of the changes that the district is making in curriculum in regard to especially science and reading and all the shifts in early elementary literacy are now kind of not necessarily on hold, but adapting the curriculum, modifying the curriculum has to be on hold because it has to align to the state standards. So stay tuned. Like I said, this is really unfortunate. We hope the state continues to proceed with the standards as soon as possible.
On our agenda items, we have approval of field trip requests. There are 3 field trips on our docket tonight. The approval of job descriptions, so these are the before and after school site manager and the before and after school site assistant. These were last updated in 2003, so about 20 years ago. So Mr. McIntosh at the after school program has made the necessary updates for these positions. And we also have 2 students for approval for home instruction. And that concludes my report.
Questions for curriculum? Equity and excellence.
No updates from our meeting on the 21st of this month.
Okay, and we're coming finals next week. And it was a packed agenda with lots of good information, so I'll try to be brief, but I won't be. There's a lot on here. I sent it out, but to share with the rest of the public. We talked about a proposal to change the pay rate for chaperones and nurses on field trips. Currently, chaperones are paid $85 a night. APA is suggesting we raise that to $100. It ties to the fact that we're looking, the proposal is out there. It's all still talking stages, nothing that we're working on. That when we have nurses on field trips, it's getting very expensive because we weren't paying them their hourly rate times, all hours, including overnight. So we've also raised here at a time that field trips are very expensive, and how do we help students pay for them and so forth. So one of the recommendations is paying nurses $250 a day and $125 for a half day. It would be a cost-saving measure. Many trips do require, or some trips do require nursing coverage if students have certain medications they need to take or certain significant health issues. So the district is looking at ways to get nursing coverage the way we get our teachers through ESS, which is a source for teachers. So that is out there. I think Keith is pursuing it with the association, and will come back to us at some point. We had a presentation by Mr. McIntosh on daycare of the before and after school program. And he will be presenting every month to finance facilities, certainly for the foreseeable future as with the program up and running. At that point, he said we had 145 enrollments. They were coming in very quickly. I don't know where we are today, because this was a week ago. This is a little bit. So less than. Last year, we had about 100 in each building, so we had about 200. So I don't know how close we are to that at this point. In addition to that, he has started an aftercare program for preschoolers, which will be run separately. At that point, he had 23 children. He had 23 preschoolers enrolled. He's recommending that we hire a site manager for the preschool group. Preschoolers are supposed to be separate from others in aftercare. That if we had them preschoolers before, they were not separated, but that is the expectation. The ratio is 1 to 12, 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
1 to 10. And there's a higher ratio for older students, so he wants to maintain that ratio. There's been staff training. This is for the first time in many years. CPR and AED. There's training on roles and responsibilities. More training to come. The nurses, maybe they've happened, I don't know, the nurses will be training on diabetes care, although currently we will continue to have a nurse because of the 60 need. But the staff will be trained. And an activity calendar, which you may have sent out or will be, planning on structured activities, snacks will be served to all. And he is exploring options whereby we can become eligible for state subsidies. So currently, our families who are lower income are paying a little bit each month. If we could become eligible for state subsidies, they could be paying less than that, but the state would pay us the full rate, which would obviously really help us financially. There are two different possibilities. He's exploring them, and we'll report more next month or when he gets that information. It is a goal of his to plow through and figure out how to do that for us. So that was daycare. That was before and after care. Facility projects that John Flanagan presented. Barl, as you've seen, the structure and the surface are done. He's working on a retaining wall, some changes to the fencing. He explained it in detail. I'm not sure that I got it, but the point is, playground will be open while this work is being done, while it's being planned and scheduled. It may need to close when our active vendors are actually there, but for the most part, the playground is available. At that point, modular classrooms were in place. All four of them were there on their site. The outside work was finishing up. There was a lot of work, outside work in terms of getting it on its footing, I think, and closing up around it. John described to us a lot of the hookup work that needs to be done, electricity and so forth, and repairing the interiors. There's a lot of work still to do on those modulars, but it is on track to be done well before preschool will start, which is in October. It was not ready for the first day of school, so kindergartners are in the room where they would have been. We did have modulars, and then they will have to do that. That's unfortunate, but we got pretty far. And it was related to those modules, just not simply getting here, and not being in a condition that we could use them to develop this work. But John also reported on the start of school, which there was an incredible amount of work that was done to get all the schools and classrooms ready. Sounds like he's constantly looking at every inch of these buildings and every sparkling, shiny floor. So all the floors were dripped with wax, sparkling with shampoo. It's probably TMI here, but we're going to keep it. John said, I feel like I can go through it real quick. He said, I didn't want to say, that he felt our custodians and maintenance were our unsung heroes, was his expression, for the amount of work they did in a relatively short period of time. He would like to go in the future, look for other ways to spread out that work so it's not so intense. Currently no backlog of work orders, which is a pretty amazing thing, so he feels like we're in really good shape. He is now going through room by room to see what needs to be done going forward, because we're going to be monitored for QSAC, and he's setting priorities for work orders and work to be done for QSAC and for what the school needs. And then under actual finance, we have an audit maybe scheduled for September 18th, but that might need to be rescheduled. So we get assuming that we're going to be ready for it or not. There was a call with Standards & Poor's about our bond rating. And I know Denise was talking about that we're in a good position to sell how well the district is doing financially, and hopefully a good rating obviously will help us if we went to referendum. And then we talked about the need potentially for a capacity study. Based on the conversations we had with the mayor, and as Anna also pointed out, there's a lot of redevelopment being proposed. I don't think we can determine what's coming to us in terms of students, but I think we also need to figure out what can we handle within the current existing buildings. So that's something that Lisa is looking into. And also there was a health insurance update that we're looking at ways to save some costs on insurance premiums while maintaining everything that we have for our staff. Our premiums went up drastically last year. We're looking at exploring Horizon as a private insurance as opposed to Horizon run by the state. And so as a PDA, we'll be looking at that, and then they come back to us for further conversation. And that was finance and facilities. I think they did okay. Correct me if I did something wrong. Okay. Any questions or anything on that? Awesome. Okay. Andra? Oh no, I have to do the agenda. Oh man. Okay. Actually, not so bad. 15 items. A lot of bill lists, cafeteria bill list, and otherwise being approved for the bill list just for the end of August to the middle of September. Treasurer's report as of June 30th. Treasurer's report for the end up to July 31st. Approval of board secretary reports for the end of June and the end of July. Board of Ed certifications that we're not in violation of any laws in terms of our how we're using our funds. Approval of some board transfers, budget transfers rather. Travel and related expense reimbursements report, an out-of-district student. This is a student who was moved into our district. I think we approved this last time as a change in the figure. It's the same out-of-district placement. Some related services for that district student. And this is the retaining wall that we were talking about, the water needs, and it has to do with water retention or maintaining the integrity of the area with water. So we have two quotes and one, we're going to approve the LCC landscape to do that work. Okay. This one. So, all right, personnel communications.
Okay, great, thank you. Oops. All right, so I sent out my notes. They're pretty self-explanatory. Highlights included, we are approving Toby Marcus as an interim social worker for the middle school and high school. He will be working part-time on a contract basis because the recommendation is that we just need a part-time staff person in that position. And he will be working on child study team matters as part of the child study team. Let's see here. We talked a bit about the more after-school leadership, and Marilyn and Dr. Kosia gave us a little bit of information about how things are going. The answer was well. Let's see. We have a new middle school youth safety specialist recommended by the administration. That's Alexander Turonsky, whose resume is available to board members. And I included some information in my notes about the position and so the history of it. And that is about it. On to the agenda. I just realized I'm not actually seeing the social worker on here.
Yes, number 4.
Oh, I just missed him, I'm sorry. Oh, extension, I'm sorry, so it's already there, right? And he is being extended next week. My bad. Okay, personnel verification agenda. As usual, I'm not going to go through everything because it is very self-explanatory. We have a resignation, we have some new hires. Number 2 is approval of new hires, including Sean Harrison as the Title I liaison for the middle school, which is fantastic. And then we have E is Alexander Turonsky for the youth safety specialist position at the middle school. Let's see. Number 4 is our interim contract school social worker at the middle school, high school. Let's see. Some changes in hours, changes in compensation, changes in compensation for certain paraprofessionals according to a sidebar. Which sidebar is that? Do you know
Which number?
Number 11, I'm sorry. I just don't remember off the top of my head what. This is perhaps
This is
Yes. So this is the sidebar for paraprofessionals that are in self-contained rooms.
right, yes, that one. Okay, that's great. Or should we give all of our paraprofessionals more than $2
Absolutely.
wage increase? Let's see. Some new after-school staff. We got homework specialists recommended at Bartle, Tanya Gerlach. Is she a teacher with us now? Oh, she is. That's great.
She's the co-teacher.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic.
My daughter got her last year, she was great.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's great to know that she'll be assisting with homework for after-school program at Bartle, probably, right? Oh, yeah, Bartle, okay, sorry. And then 2 nurses are up for approval. Let's see. Here we have 17 is change to professional development presenters, et cetera, for in-service days and new teacher orientation. So you can see use of leading the new teacher orientation. 19, administration is recommending that we table it because apparently at the last minute, the Board of Ed did not approve certain funding allocations. So we'll be back to number 19.
Yes, the DOE has not awarded a preschool expansion grant yet. We're due to hear from them this week, so in lieu of that, we were supposed to hear from them on Friday. So in lieu of that, we're excited to table that on.
Thank you for explaining that more clearly than I did. Yep, and that's it. Thank you.
That's a question, and this might be more directed to perhaps Dr. Nkoja. On number 4, the extension of the interim social work for art services. I'm sorry, I need to ask this sooner, but how is it determined that there was only a need for part-time social work?
Yeah, it's part-time,
Yeah,
right,
so
part-time
we
and per diem, so we had posted for a social worker. We were able to staff as much as we could, we were a little short, but what they do is per diem work as needed. We have been having transient students, so some come in and some leave, so it really has just been to be able to pick up where the middle school or high school CST load has been overwhelming. This person has been able to pick up some case management here and there to support that.
Okay, so I guess it wasn't about the person not being available on more than a per diem basis.
Correct.
It was a decision that was all we needed. And
Correct,
there was
yes.
additional support.
Correct.
Okay, that was striking to me, because I'll be honest, because we've had so many conversations, I know Academy Excellence over the past year or so about how much of a demand there is for more social work support. Both
Right,
at
but
the
we-
CST level and
Right, but we hired, because our social workers are part of the CST here for case management.
Right, yeah, and I know that that's something we
Yeah.
talked about, just the case management piece, and also the general support to
Of course,
students.
of course. We don't have, right now, we don't have positions for social workers as just a social worker outside of special education for case management. Does that make sense? Like, we don't have that position as a job description for something else, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I know, I'm not
Okay.
suggesting that, well, I think we should be talking about
Right,
that.
right.
Regardless, I still am questioning, but you have already made it clear that there is no additional need for even the CST support
Correct.
beyond what you've said here. Okay. But I think we can agree that the idea of social work.
Absolutely, yes. I'm just trying to clarify the difference between a social worker on staff to do work at the teen center, for example. So we do have social workers on staff as part of our teen and tween center. So like Ms. Asamoah, for example, is an MSW. We do have them in the mental health capacity. But in terms of, so if they need, a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention for mental health support, we have that. And then we have them as part of CST. So those are the two areas in which we have social workers on staff.
I mean, I will just say from my experience working in special education, working closely with CST teams, I see many social workers that operate in the CST role also serving that more direct support role for students as well, because they have the experience with that, whether it's kind of actually having one-on-one counseling sessions with students, in addition to their case management.
Well, one of the things that Ms. Asamoah is doing under her title of Supervisor of Counseling, Health, and Wellness is to provide more professional development support to our school counselors to be able to provide some of that role as well. So they do obviously, college readiness, career readiness, counseling in terms of academics, career counseling, and then also some more of that sort of case management in terms of that piece of it, that sort of social emotional learning piece of it as well. So I know that she has been working with her whole group, including our health teachers, our health and PE teachers, our school counselors, and our mental health specialists on staff, so that we can diversify the support that we're providing for students. In addition, Ms. Mink is now so she's providing the health and SEL to the students at Bartle. So we are trying to expand our services to utilize the resources that we have to help our students.
Other questions for personnel? Okay. Policy did not meet, and there are no policies, so that's an easy committee to be on. Right now, that will change. So then we move to public comment. And the next speaker. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board Policy 0164 and 0167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. So if you would like to speak, you can raise your virtual hand, or if you're in the room and want to speak, you guys get to go first. This is 3 minutes, and then, as you know, we'll have another public comment at the end. There's not time. So you're going to speak, you're in the room, you can introduce yourself and give us your address.
First Street. Thank you for the presentation about the pre-K. That was really comprehensive. And as I was kind of thinking of questions, you guys went over a lot. But just some questions that I was wondering, some thoughts I had, just because I know that you'll be thinking about it over the next month. So Anne brought up, I think, a little bit of this, but I guess I'm not fully understanding why kindergarten and first grade moving to Bartle isn't being considered more. I know you were saying that pre-K isn't totally able to use Irving as it is now, but I think it would be worth considering if certain things need to be outfitted to make Irving a standalone pre-K space, specifically because it already has the playground set up, and we're not building a second playground at Bartle, and kind of having pre-K and then back to pre-K at Bartle, back to Irving for a couple of years, and back to Bartle. If that's how it has to be, I understand. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but if there's a way to make it a little bit smoother, even if it costs a little more money on the upfront, to retrofit some of the classrooms to be able to accommodate. I know you said there are certain limitations to pre-K, but there are also a lot of things that you wouldn't have to spend money on, like an additional playground, and potentially other issues. So in terms of just the continuity and looking at it more holistically in terms of long-term, what's the goal versus what fits right now, I think that might be worth considering more. Obviously, there's a lot of details about that, but I just wanted to point that out. A couple of questions that I also had that I'm sure you'll be discussing. If you did pick the separate building, would the staff have to go back and forth between the two buildings, or would you have to hire additional staff? I think that could be a challenge in terms of time and getting kids all the resources that they need. I also am concerned about it being less space than the Bartle option. I think the Bartle option, having just additional classrooms in general to get to as much of that universe as possible, is ideal, whether it is the pre-K or the suggestion of moving kindergarten and first, if that's possible. Also, if you had a separate property, you were talking about how it's not school property for the first 30 years, so I'm just wondering, I know there's certain legal requirements for school property, like no smoking within a certain distance. If it's not school property, do those things still apply, which obviously we'd want to make sure that it was safe and that, it was treated as school property if that's the one that you're going with. I also wanted to mention one of the issues.
Time's up.
Sure.
Did you ask a question there?
Oh, I was just going to say, I know with start times, busing was a big issue, so I would just ask that you kind of consider, is that going back and forth between two buildings? I don't know if pre-K is required to be bused. I don't know how that works. If it is required to be bused, I think that's something that needs to be factored in. Again, does it then make more sense to have them in a separate building, and then what's the full money kind of situation, because the busing has been really challenging with different locations. So,
Thank you. Any members of the public who are online who would like to speak? Oh, I'm sorry, one more person.
I'm Dan Malatnik. I live at 216 Graham Street, Park. I'm also a teacher in the high school and advisor for one of the co-advisors for Student Congress. And I just wanted to say first, congratulations, because I missed the very beginning, so sorry. Good for you all for starting on time. My fault for missing that beginning. But congratulations to Roy and Andrew. And I heard most of your reports, so well done. It's great to have you on board here. And while I'm here, I just want to say that I want to thank you. I didn't get here to thank you for all the work that you did for the middle and high school students to adjust the start time. I know that other people might be less thankful, but I'm very grateful as a psychology teacher who teaches about sleep and who talk to you a lot about the effects that early school start times can have on adolescents. I'm very pleased with the step that you took. And I will report to you that I attended my first away sports game today, and it happened okay. Like it started around 4:15. It was okay, and so I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the little boost of sleep that our teenagers will be getting.
We're excited too. That's a feedback from you.
Just complete.
Okay, take time.
I left my cup done, I just.
We have one more in the room speaker.
Nicole Scandio, 208 Third Ave. Just wanted to briefly just mention a couple of things that I'm concerned about when it comes to relocating preschool or even building for preschool. I just don't know, I obviously don't know the thought process because I'm not behind the scenes on it, but I'm just wondering if there's considerations of, you know, not only focusing on just getting preschool housed, but like long-term solutions for all of the grades, because it seems that we're going to have an issue of space at some point, even if it isn't that big of an issue right now, and I would hate to try to find space out of good faith, and then leaving a problem for later. So if you can please consider anything that is, any decisions that are made are considering the long-term effect side on the town and the fact that we are growing, and that there will be a lot more students in the schools. That is all I will speak on right now.
Thank you. Answer of standing hand raised. So, seeing no hand raised for the public that's online, we're going to move on. And we're going to board action items. So, curriculum instruction, Allison, do you want to move your items?
For curriculum instruction, I'd like to move items 1 through 3.
Second. Second?
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Cassell-Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Ms. Ward?
Yes.
Okay, and finance and facilities, and the next. I move items 1 through 15.
Second.
Second is Allison.
Sorry. Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Cassell-Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Ms. Ward?
Yes.
Okay, and personnel.
I'd like to move numbers 1 through 18 and table number 19.
Second.
Mr. Beatty?
Is it possible to say yes and abstain for 2E right that?
Dan, can you speak a little louder so we'll have to hear you?
Is it possible to say yes but take abstain from 2E? To use
Yes, yours.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
2E.
Yes.
Okay. Wait, yes to the rest?
Yes.
Ms. Cassell-Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes, on 1 and 3 through 18, and yes on 2A through D, abstain on 2E.
Ms. Gowan?
Abstain on 2E, yes to the rest.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Ms. Voorhees?
Yes.
Okay. And, Policy is not, so we're going to board liaison reports. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Nothing? Okay. Oh, the president's report, that's me. There are a few things I wanted to say. One is, I want to really thank all of our teachers and counselors, administrators, office staff, maintenance, for a successful opening of school. I represent the whole board, I'm sure in saying that. We wish all of our students a great school year. Very grateful for all the work that it took to get our school up and running, our district up and running. And I know from parents, everybody was very grateful to get those kids out the door. So I wasn't a grandparent, so I wish everybody a great school year from the board. And then I wanted to use a little bit of the time to update on a couple of recent meetings or a couple of planned meetings. So as Dr. Kosha spoke, she and Mr. DeRosa and myself met with the mayor and Terry a couple weeks ago, Terry Joder. It was a very productive meeting. We shared information about the full day preschool, about the work we're doing to plan for the expansion, about the modular classrooms, about the possibility of a referendum. So they were very obviously interested in needing to hear all that, which are all things we need to be working together on. We talked about the redevelopment and tried to get some information on the plans moving forward and shared with them our concerns for the impact on our schools. We didn't get more information than I think I already had. They're feeling they don't yet know whether the homes coming in will be 1 or 2 bedrooms or whether they'll be, I think for the most part, I think we determined that they are going to be rentals. And 15% of the homes that are coming in will be, what's it called? Affordable housing. Those could be 3 bedrooms, so potentially even the 15% of those homes, will have an impact on our schools, as could any of them. We talked about the issue of pilot money, and we have been assured that it's the intent of the borough to give the school district its fair share of the current pilot agreement. This is the first year of that agreement. I want to make sure I'm saying it right. So the amount will be determined at the end of the year, once those figures, I guess, are agreed upon. And then we agreed that we would be part of conversations going forward about new pilot projects that are coming up, and discussion will be had on its impact on our school budget. So we committed to meeting monthly. I think that's really great. I think we had to work together in lots of different areas that we're both working to support each other's work to the extent that we can, and certainly keep up with the communication. And that's going forward. The strategic planning process is moving forward for this year. We selected 3 dates in conjunction with New Jersey school boards. It's October 18th, January 17th, and February 21st. Will be 3 meetings that will be open to the entire community. Dr. Kosha put together a committee to do the planning for those 3 meetings. So on September 18th or sometime of that, we have a committee of a number of parents, a couple staff members, a couple board members who will go over the planning for those meetings. School Boards Association runs the meeting, so our job at this point is to get the word out and to make certain that we personally invited critical players in the community, and then in general, make sure the parents and community and staff are all welcome to come to those meetings. So that is in the planning stage. That's not the planning stage any longer. As soon as that is September, it's coming up really quickly. So as soon as we have our September 18th meeting, I assume then invitations and announcements will be going out for the October 18th. You do not need to be, from a community perspective, you don't have to go to all 3 meetings. Obviously, we'd love to have you, whatever everybody's available to do. It will be the evening times and things, yeah. I was going to bring up board goals, which I put out to the board, and we've had some good conversation via email today. So I'm going to table that so that we can include the comments that we got via email. Lost track today. Couldn't get anything out. There's no hurry. Our board goals are for this current school year, 23-24. We're going to work on some of the wording on some of the areas, the area actually, and put that back up in October. Okay, just so we don't, no reason to rush that, get that wording right. And last, just from the point of view of communications, because that is one of our board goals, it has been, Dr. Koch has been putting out a summary of our action items today and our topics discussed. Sort of, not that we're not copying from the borough, but their take 5. That was Jen's suggestion a while back. It is pretty effective. I do skim down to see what they covered if I don't get to listen to a borough meeting, so we'll do something similar. I think we're board bulletin might be our title. Was that what you're going with? And also Jen's suggestion. And so that will be an email out to the community, and I'll post it on Facebook or whatever. Try to get the community to be more aware of what we're doing here at the board. So that's my thoughts. And so we're not going to approve board goals. We'll go to old business. Comments or anything? Yes, yeah, you comment on anything.
I just wanted to
It's
thank
become old
you.
news. It's old business, like you said.
Thank you, Dr. Lucasia, for putting that summary together. I think the public will really enjoy that, from that. And I have to give the credit to my husband for the book board. So, but thank you.
Because you have a better way to make it fancy. I'm always looking for, he knows Canva, I'll be making it fancy. I love that. Oh, thank you. Of course, I look to the experts in the corner. Thank you. All right.
Anything else on old business? New business? No? Great. Okay, not great. You're welcome to stay here. If not, I'm going to public comment one last time. Same thing. Highland Park Board of Education, welcome to public participation. It has reserved its time for your comments. Board policy 0164 and 0167 establish and regulate the right of public to participate in public meetings. Same process. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. And you are quite rude today. Seeing no hands, didn't see anything. Then I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?